Welcome to the It's a Veggie BLT PETA Spring 2022 Anime Tier List. It's a Veggie BLT PETA normally stands for I totally suck at video games but love to play them anyway, but we're gonna just swap out that anyway and loves to watch anime. You know the deal. I like anime. I'm just putting this on my channel because it's fun to talk about the anime that I have watched every season, and maybe, hopefully, one of these videos will help you figure out if you want to watch a show or not. So the first thing I'll go through is the rating system. Essentially, S is I want to buy it full price unless it's put out by Aniplex USA, in which case I will probably never buy it because it's way too expensive, but I want to. A is I would buy that on sale. I kind of really want it in my collection. B is that was a fun watch. I may not remember it, but it was a fun watch and worth checking out. C is that wasn't very good, but maybe appeals to more specific tastes, but it wasn't really to my taste, but I didn't hate it. D is I struggled through this for some reason just to finish it, but I really wish I hadn't. And dropped is ones that I just didn't get through. Now, dropped doesn't mean it was bad. I don't always drop things because they're bad. Sometimes I drop things just because I don't have time for all the shows, and one show or another just doesn't quite hit me as hard as the others, so I drop it. But without further ado, let's get things started with our first show. There we go. Which is Skeleton Knight in Another World. So watch the first episode of this, and there was a big old violent craziness of, that giant sword the guy in the back has slicing people in half, and it was intense, and I'm like, alright, maybe this is something like Goblin Slayer, but then it also has the mix of derpy isekai, it's an isekai, just to, let you know. But the main dude gets, transported to this world of, it's a video game, I think. Yeah, and his character in the video game, he chose a skeleton avatar just because it looked cool. But turns out he has that avatar in the game now, and so he has to hide his identity because people think he's an undead monster if he shows them. But he's kind of just a goofy guy, even though he incites or enacts violence, hardcore violence sometimes. But I didn't know if that was going to be a good balance when we were watching it. As it went along, it kind of just got There wasn't anything that really made it stand out or was worth watching. Obviously, you see he meets some girls, and then there's there's some kind of weird choices on how people are treating some kidnapped elves and stuff, or not even just kidnapped elves, there's a kidnapped princess, and it gets kind of risque, which does not mesh at all with the kind of happy-go-lucky attitude otherwise of the show. I don't know. It wasn't bad, but it's gonna get a C from me just because it wasn't really to my taste after watching it for a few episodes. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Next up is Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. This is a season, to be fair. Spring 2022 is a season of a lot of rom-coms, a lot of them. And this one was gonna be maybe a ooh one because she has a secret. Shikimori is the pink-haired girl, by the way, is not just a cutie. She also apparently, spoiler alert, is cool. So yeah, that's the shtick. I was a little disappointed. There's so much that could happen here, but long story short, the main dude with the black hair in the middle, is horrendously cursed and accident prone. If anything can go wrong, it does go wrong to this dude. And the pink-haired girl, Shikimori, is really athletically superior and protects him in a lot of situations. So you got some cute things going on there. And he has managed to have a friend. The dude next to him, we just call him Happy Bakugo because it's voiced by Bakugo's Japanese voice actor and looks pretty much like if Bakugo was happy. He's a good friend, and then she brings these other two girls who are they're fun to interact with. The blonde-haired girl, she cracks me up because she's my spirit animal. She likes food and hates going outside, but they have a lot of just cute interactions. That's the whole show. Just cute interactions, which was a little disappointing because it was coming up with all sorts of theories on like, okay, maybe Shikimori's part of like a family of priests who like cursed the family of, I don't even remember the main dude's guy, I'm sorry, the main dude's name, I mean. But maybe like they cursed his demon line or something down the line, or maybe they're part of a priesthood that has to protect against this demon who's targeting his family. No, nothing. None of that. There's no explanation for the curse, no explanation for anything really. It's just cute moments, which was disappointing, but on the whole, it was a pleasant show. So it gets a B. If you're in the mood for a cute rom-com show, it'll hit the mark. Next up is... Trapped in a dating sim. The world of otome games is tough for mobs. Spoiler alert, I watched one episode of this and didn't watch any more. I don't know, a lot of people apparently were really into this show and it was like good, but it was not. The main character is an asshole. The girls all look the goddamn same. I only met like I think one of the princes in the first episode. I wanted to like this show because it's got mechs. I like mechs. It's about otome games. I play otome games. I play a lot of otome games, as you might see on the channel if you watch other videos. This had like nothing to do with otome games really. It was the weirdest setup for an otome game, which they do explain, like the game company that made the otome game doesn't usually make them, so it threw in like sci-fi and like other aspects all over the place. But I think that was more just an excuse because the author didn't actually want to make it take place in an otome game. They just wanted to use a tired trope of, ooh, men are not, well, it's not a tired trope, I guess, but basically men are dogs in this universe and women rule everything, and this dude's just a schlob and not one of the pretty princes, but he's gonna show everybody that he's better. And I was not into that, and it wasn't good enough to make me care. So I didn't want to waste time on it, and it got dropped. Next is a show that did not get dropped, and I think if it did get dropped, people would be like, why, I never! And that's Spy X Family, or Spy Cross Family, or Spy Family, however you pronounce that X in the middle. It cute! What can I say? It cute. It didn't like blow me away, but the animation was good, the character designs are nice. It's comedy and a little bit of action. For those who haven't heard of Spy X Family, basically the blonde dude is a spy who needs to go undercover with a kid in a school because the only way to get in contact with this dude he has to basically assassinate from an opposite side of the war. The only time people ever see him is at this school like meeting because his kid goes to this super school. So he has to find a kid, find a wife, get integrated into that society. But of course, things go a little crazy, and it's not just him being a spy. He ends up, caring about the kid and the wife. And the kid is she's got psychic powers and can read minds, which helps sometimes and also sometimes does not help. And then the girl he finds to play his wife and just like say that they've been married because she needs it to kind of hide herself is an assassin. None of them know that any of them are these things, so they're all just kind of a comedy of mishaps and errors to get them through, and they start caring about things. I mean, this was going to be kind of a guaranteed hit. There was very hard for them to mess it up, and they didn't mess it up. It's very good. It's a lot of fun to watch. I guess there's going to be a dog in the next season, so I'm looking forward to whatever like super action Esper dog is going to happen. I'll keep watching it. It's very cute. I don't know if I necessarily need to own it though. So this one, I mean, maybe if it was on a big sale, I would maybe buy it. So which is why is this going in A? It's definitely worth watching. For me personally, it may be closer to B tier because I don't really need it in my life. It was fun, but I didn't love it. But it's stuff I think in general for people it's an A tier. It's worth a watch. Next on the docket is Danseur. This is a show about ballet. With some female ballet, but more specifically about dudes who are into ballet. So that was an interesting side of it because male ballet is kind of a different world because there are fewer of them. They are just as competitive though. Dude on the left, Junpei? Shoot, I forget his name. But dude on the left wanted to do ballet as a kid, but after like his father dies, he ends up being not taken in, but going under his uncle in jiu-jitsu, one of the martial arts. I'm so sorry, I don't remember exactly what, Jeet Kune Do maybe? Because that's more manly, and everyone expected him to be more manly, like his dad, who was like a stunt man. So he does that, even though secretly he still wants to always do ballet. He finally gets pulled into it when the chick in the middle at his high school sees him like kind of doing a crazy dance, and she's like, "Hey, that was a ballet move," and he's like, "No, it wasn't," and she's like, "Yeah, it was. Come with me." And her mom actually runs a ballet studio, and he's definitely super rough at ballet. Like, he just kind of copies things he sees on YouTube, doesn't know any of the actual like basics, just does it his own way. But there is a great talent in him, and apparently he's got like this crazy foot flexibility and really good like musculature for it too. So of course the ballet mom is like, "All right, you do this under me, let's go." But of course secretly living in their house, I guess it's not really secretly, but living in their house is the other dude, the dude on the right, who has a tragic past, which is part of the show, so I won't spoil it here. He's also a dude ballet guy, and they kind of have some ballet offs, and there's a lot of performances. There's a lot of cringe that happens, unfortunately, because the main dude, again, I think it's Junpei, he just kind of goes like, "Haha, ballet is not art, whatever, I just want to do ballet and make people sparkle and happy." But then he, has to eat his words as once he actually, learns about the history of ballet and like how ballet actually should be. But to be honest, the best part of the show was the animation for the dancing. Like, they went full out. This wasn't just like CG, let's make stiff ballet. No. The animation of all the dancing is beautiful. The character designs are also really kind of interesting. They you can see from this one a little bit, they got the long neck syndrome of like Welcome to the Ballroom. What you can't see in this one is that they have like this cool like white stripe arc through their eyes. Like, it's part of like the character design. Like, I liked it. It's very striking. But the animation in general is superb. If you have any interest at all in like ballet, or even kind of like learning a little bit more about it, it's a pretty cool watch. I'm gonna give it a B tier because I don't really feel the need to own it. Even if it was on sale, I might just kind of pass it over. But it was a good watch, and again, I learned a little bit about ballet that I didn't know before. Next up is it doesn't even want to extend. Next up is Don't Hurt Me, My Healer. Let's make you a little bit bigger. This is another one where I only watched one episode, but I figured I'd talk about it just in case you were interested in hearing what I thought about that one episode. It was I don't know. There's like something where she like is a healer, but she's actually pretty bad at her job, but she has a partner who isn't even on this now that I'm looking at it. Like, there's I guess he is. He's the dude in the helmet behind her. He never shows his face. Even when he takes his helmet off, it's like not shown. He's kind of like a hentai protagonist in that way. But he's apparently kind of a shit adventurer who just expects her to be like to heal him and stuff, but they'll fight. So they were actually fighting instead of him fighting the little horned bear up here in the upper right, who was actually trying to like be a peacekeeper between them. Like, now you guys should work together. And like, it was okay, I guess. It didn't really have a point. The jokes weren't landing for me. Might land for other people. Maybe have to give it a few more episodes for it to really actually start to get good. I don't know. Some people said like the manga, it was more prevalent that like he was a jerk, so it wasn't just her being kind of a idiot healer. I don't know. It just didn't land. The character designs weren't enough. The weird, like I said, the weird hentai protagonist thing with the main dude was like, I'm like, why? Why is this a thing? The creature designs are cute, but nothing else was enough. And I had enough to watch this season, so it got the D-ropped. How big do I want to make it? That big. Next up is the second longest title of animes that I watched this season. Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045 Season 2. It says SAC 2045 on there, I know, but it stands for Standalone Complex. I was really looking forward to it, to be honest. Like, the first season, even though the animation, it's CG, and it's like, it's good, but not, it's hard to explain. They look like shiny toy action figures. The backgrounds and vehicles and like everything else in the show are so freaking realistic. It's insane. Like this studio gets everything but humans like so well. I would love to see them work on like video games or something, or work with a company that can do human actions and human designs better, because man, that stuff is great, but the humans themselves are so just like not great. But I was forgiving it because I'm like, you know what, it's Ghost in the Shell, it'll be fine. I just like it for the story. It doesn't have to look amazing. Because, like, the characters are clean, they're just too clean, if that makes sense. I don't know. But unfortunately, the story wasn't even that great for this second half. Like, the first half ends on this cliffhanger where Togusa, our dude on the left, it disappears. Like, because there's some virus basically going around that's causing humans to become what they call post-human. So they're just basically superhumans who can hack anything, including, like, if you're attached, like if you're on online at all, they can hack your eyes, they can do whatever. There's superhuman reactions and everything. So he disappears chasing after who they think is like the main post-human. And then you had to wait like a year and a half or 2 years. I forget when the first season actually came out. And it comes back and there's some interesting stuff going on, but without spoiling too much, like there's some good action scenes and it's got some neat stuff, but the ending was just kind of a mess of fake outs and like, I don't know, it was disappointing because I know Ghost in the Shell can do better than that, and they didn't in this circumstance. It was alright still, and I think, here's the weird part, I think I'd probably still buy it if it's on sale at some point, just because I do love Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, but I don't know if I could recommend the whole thing. Like, Season 1 was pretty good. Season 2, I don't know if I could recommend. I'm gonna put it in B tier, because I wasn't upset that I watched it, and I would probably still buy it. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard recommendation for me unless you're really into Ghost in the Shell and can forgive a lot of stuff. Next up is Tomodachi Game, and I honestly meant to watch this one, and then I just didn't after the first episode. I don't know, it has, like, it kind of gave me that, you know, it's a death game without being a death game, because it's a game of debt, essentially. Like, you're pitted against your friends and everyone has to doubt each other, but even though they're supposed to work together to survive, but everyone doubts everyone because they're out for themselves, even if they do kind of want to work together, and all the games have tricks to them. At least that's what it seemed like in the first episode. It didn't seem bad at all, but at the time I just didn't have a lot of time to watch a lot of shows, and this one I kept meaning like, oh yeah, I gotta watch the next episode of Tomodachi Game, and then I kept not, and then it was like, you know, I would have had to catch up, you know, 6-7 episodes. I'm like, I'm not gonna catch up those episodes, am I? And the answer was no, and I didn't. But I don't necessarily say to not watch it. I'd say give it a few episodes probably if you're into the whole, again, it's not technically a death game, but if you're into that death game vibe where they pit a bunch of people together to see who comes out on top, it might be worth a watch. It had a good feel, just not good enough for me. So it goes into the dropped. Eventually. Come on, size yourself. Thank you. There we go. Next up is ya boy Komei, otherwise known as Paripi Komei, spelled KongMing, but I guess that's how you spell but pronounce it Komei. It was fun. The main characters are in the front. On the left middle is Komei, who is a tactician from China. I believe he was part of like the whole dynasty. I want to say Dynasty Warriors. It's the War of the Three Kingdoms. I just know it most from Dynasty Warriors because they mentioned Lu Bu, and I'm like, it's Lu Bu! But he is from that time period, and he just, on his deathbed, he just wished to be in a world where there was peace. And all of a sudden he wakes up in a slightly younger form in the middle of Japan, like around Tokyo. I forget exactly which prefecture, but... And he's like, huh, alright, cool, what's up? And then he happens to go into a club where the girl on the center right, the blonde hair, is singing, and he's like, oh shit, this girl sings amazing. I want to help her spread peace around the world with her singing. And so he does. She's basically kind of a wannabe singer, self-taught, who sings in this club. Doesn't really do too much other than that. She has like a kind of a low Instagram or whatever the heck following account, but just really loves singing and wants to make people happy. But with the help of Komei, he starts getting her into other things with like competitions where there's a festival and someone sneakily tries to have her go on the same time as them so that people will just like only go to her stage, because like if she goes up against an unknown person, nobody's going to go to that stage. But then Komei's like, hey, I've got this tactic from Sun Tzu that is going to make you win, and does. So he uses tactics from ancient China to apply to like music competitions and the music world in general to get her like way up there. And it's a lot of fun. For good or bad, it kind of reminded me of Carol and Tuesday, because it had a lot of actual music and artists and songs and singers in it. It has a cool rap section if you like Japanese rap. There's a whole battle about like that. It was a neat show that showcased a lot of different music. Pretty light and happy for the most part. A little character growth. People learn to like themselves or learn more about who they are. Just all around a good, fun music show. Nothing too deep, but it was a neat watch. I mean, because it was just kind of a neat watch, I'm going to rank it a B. There's a lot of Bs this season. I did enjoy my time watching it. I don't need to own that show, but it's cute. And like I said, the music was actually pretty cool. Alright, next up we have Kaguya-sama Love is War, Season 3 Ultra Romantic. It's Season 3 by now. If you haven't watched Kaguya-sama or know what it is, I mean, you could start with Season 3, but you'd be very confused. But if you've watched Season 1 and 2, you knew Season 3 was also going to be a hell of a good time. The characters are all still punchy and funny, and they interact so amazingly well. There's still a lot of romantic tension with other characters besides just Kaguya and... oh no, I forgot his name. The student council president. I am so bad with names this season. And I've watched 2 other seasons of this show. I forget his name, but he's cool. So the guy in the upper left, he's the student council president. The girl in the lower left, not the one in the center, surprisingly, is Kaguya. They have a I'm gonna make them confess first kind of romance going on, where they keep trying to trick each other into confessing that they like the other one, but not trying to reveal that they like the other one. It's a little ridiculous. The girl in the center is the best girl in anime ever, and her name is Chika, and she's ridiculous, and also fancies herself a detective, and she's my favorite, like literally probably my favorite anime girl, I think, at least currently, that I can think of. And then on the right-hand side, there's some younger ones that are in the student council president as well, and they all get into shenanigans. It's all crazy shenanigans. And kind of goofy, but very fun to watch. There's little like short like things where they'll say like at the end the winner is so and so, because like if someone tries to get them to confess but then they fail, they're not the winner kind of thing, and that's like the narrator talking. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. I recommend it, but I would definitely say start from season 1 and 2. But if you're looking for just like a goofy rom-com, again, this was the season of rom-coms. Kaguya-sama's not gonna steer you wrong. And, on the plus side, minor spoilers, this 3rd season actually does have some romantic resolution. I won't say what, and it's not completely, but you know what? It was a nice way to, like, finally bring something to an end, unlike other shows, Nozaki-kun, where they left it up in the air forever. Because of that, I haven't bought season 1 or 2 because it is a lot of fun to watch, but I just don't want to pay full price for it. But Kaguya-sama definitely gets in the A tier, because if it ever goes on sale sometime, I'll buy that show. It is funny. As well animated too, I should point out, just in case you're an animation snob. Next up is The Dawn of the Witch. This one I wasn't gonna watch because I heard it's the sequel to like the Asterisk War or something. I forget what it's even the sequel to. I should look that up. I'll put it on the screen here at this point. But it's a sequel to something, but it's kind of like a after a while sequel, I guess. And I wasn't gonna watch it, but then like I saw a trailer, or I don't know, I looked at it and I'm like, this actually looks like it might be good. And I'm actually really glad I did watch it because it was good. Like, I don't know anything of what happened in the first one, but this one seems to be about like the main dude in the center there. He has a shit ton of magic, can't really channel it very well. So he's in this magic school to like become, you know, a graduate as a mage or whatever, but is sucking because he just can't control his magic. So they're like, do a fireball, and he either has to do like a little puff of smoke, because if he doesn't just limit it that much, he'll explode the school kind of thing. But the redhead on the left, who is secretly something I won't say because it's spoilers, and the cool lizard dude on the left end up being part of this kind of field trip study. So they go to this village to try and show that, I guess they're witches, they're not mages, sorry, that show that witches are good and can like help people. And they are led by the lolly in the front, and the blonde lolly, who is a 300-year-old lolly who doesn't have magic at all, but her magic stick can absorb magic and use it. And she's their teacher on this journey, and then they go to this village and they meet with the other people you can see on the panel, which I think everybody else on this show, including I think the lolly sensei, were part of the first show. And again, having no experience with that, I was still fully able to watch this show, understand and enjoy all the characters. So you don't have to watch that other show to get into this. It's actually just a really good fantasy show without being an isekai. They're learning about some magic. There's some definitely gore into it, because like while they can heal stuff like chopped off limbs, they still show like chopped off limbs, like for sure. So be careful about that. And there's not to spoil, but there's definitely a gut busting scene, and not in the funny way at one point. But it was good. I enjoyed it. Again, if you just want like a fantasy romp that's not an isekai, this one ain't gonna steer you wrong. As for what I rate it, I think I'm gonna put it in the B tier because I don't necessarily need to own it. However, it's a high B tier because maybe if it's like, it's not on Sentai, it's not a Sentai one, but if it was in Sentai and like part of their sales where stuff goes to $5, yeah, I'd pick it up. So it's like a high B, low A tier, just fun fantasy show to watch. And next is Fanfare of Adolescence. I watched like 3 or 4 episodes. I wanted to keep watching the show because the first episode was so ridiculous. Like, I thought it was going to be a boys' love show. I was like 90% sure that it was. They literally have like a dude being carried bridal style by another dude after they like rescue or like try to rescue a horse or something, and they feel the spirit of the horses connecting them, and there's cherry blossoms. I'm like, what is this? But the show just wasn't that good, unfortunately. It is about guys who want to be jockeys, and the main character, at least from what I hear, the main character of the first part is a former male idol who decides he's done with that and he really wants to be a horse jockey because he like went to a horse race one time and just, like I've like aforementioned before, he felt the spirit of the horse and just wanted to do that and be like the guy he saw, the jockey he saw. So he joins this like prestigious jockey school, and there's the other guys and one girl. Good on them, kudos to them that they have like hey, you're the first like girl jockey in this class for whatever. They don't do much with that, but she exists. And it's you know, of course the idol guy isn't naturally good at being a jockey, so it's his struggles at having to learn when everybody else has been, you know, with horses for years and they all think he's just doing it for attention and he has to prove himself, that kind of thing, which could have been cool. But then I hear later in the show, like I was behind on the show, so I read a couple like episode summaries. They completely switched from like him after like 8 episodes to another dude who was part of the class, who was like this country hick natural horse whisperer, who was the guy who was holding the main idol kid in his arms in the first episode, going to a different jockey team and like being there. I don't even know. Like, I don't know if this show knew what it was doing. It didn't really seem to have any focus, even in the few episodes I watched, besides just learning how to do horse racing, I guess. But also not, because like there was also constant journalists trying to get the main guy back into being an idol and trying to make him look like he's a shitty horse racer. Or jockey, sorry. Jockey. It was a kind of a mix, and it wasn't enough characters that I cared about, so it got scrapped. I don't know, maybe I'd come back to watch this at some point if I hear better reviews on it, but until then, dropped. Next up is Heroines Run the Show. Now this is apparently, again I didn't know this, but this is apparently part of a, I don't know, is it a Vocaloid project? There's Honey and Clover have this like whole series, I guess, of anime or media projects based off of songs. That again, I feel bad. I'm not sure if it's Vocaloids or something. And this is part of that series. So this Aizo and Yujiro, you can see in the top, they are part of a boy band called Lip Lip. And they were in some of the other ones. I guess they do some songs that these other shows have been based on. I think. I'm not 100% sure. But without knowing any of that, it was still very cute. Now, my biggest problem is I thought in the season of rom-coms that it was also going to be a romance anime. I was disappointed in that. It had all the trappings and could have totally became a really good, really cute romance anime where the main character, this girl in the middle, she's the plucky from the rural area, gets a scholarship to a school for track and needs to make money because like family reasons, so she gets a part-time job as a manager for Lip Lip, not even knowing who they were. She's in their class, but she doesn't know who they are, doesn't really care about idols, so they're like, you're hired, you can be the manager. And she's a bumpkin and is fumbling around, and they're like, psh, idols are more important than you think, and she learns about idols, they learn kind of about her and how to let go of their own uptight views a little bit. It was all good. It was set up to be really good about, maybe even like a three-way romance. I don't know. It could have just evolved to one or the other. It didn't have to be like dramatic romance, but there were so many good moments of them just like being good together, which platonic friendships are great too, don't get me wrong, but like there was that hint of romance that should have been there, and then it just didn't go there, and I was disappointed. Now, there were some other romances in the side characters who I guess are in some of these other anime or media projects and have their stories. So, like, them being in there, it was kind of weird because I was like, I don't know who these people are, but they're, like, classmates in the school, so, like, okay, cool, we'll get a little side story of you. But that was the only real romance in the show, was of side characters, when it should have been the main girl. They should have done maybe, like, if there was a second season, I would enjoy that if they got it a little bit into the romance spot. All in all, it was still a fun watch because it was just nice, and while there was drama with a certain fangirl who thinks that she's trying to steal them away from everybody, and things get crazy. And there were some cool musical moments because they are a boy band, so they had at least 2 or 3 specific songs. It was a fun show, but I just kind of wish it went somewhere else. And because of that, it gets a B tier. If there was another season or more of it, I'll give it a watch to see where it goes. But until then, it was fun, but that's all it was. Heads up that the main girl also has a very distinct voice that may or may not grate on your nerves. I was fine with it, but man, other people who were listening to it while I was watching were like, "What is that voice? What's going on?" It's out there. Next is The Rising of the Shield Hero Season 2. I don't know. I don't not like Shield Hero. The first season was aight. It kind of, after it blew its load, though, it just kind of petered out into generic fantasy, and it didn't even do that well. And I know apparently the first arc of this one, like the first 6 or 7 episodes, is them fighting this invincible turtle god type thing. And people were kind of like miffed at that because they're like, oh, they're taking too much time to fight this, but it's setup that's needed for the next arc that's really cool. And like, honestly, I think I like the turtle arc better than the next arc. But it was just very nothing special about it. I don't know, like his whole thing about being like the hero that everybody thinks is awful doesn't exist anymore. The shield hero isn't a stigma, like he's a hero that has saved them. So like that's what I mean by saying they blew their load early. Like there's no reason for him to be so angry anymore, but they try to cook up reasons for him to be angry and pouty and stuff. And then there's a few other girls they start adding to his harem, of course. There's like the chick with braids who's actually got a thing for the bow hero, but was not good enough for his party, so she's trying to make herself better by being part of the shield hero's party. And then they've got, you know, some of the kids from the other world. In the second half of this series, they go to another world, so it's a double isekai, I guess. Because they, you know, it's originally an isekai, but then he's in this other world and then goes to a new world, so double isekai! And they meet more people there, and there's this, like, other weapon user who ends up really liking him, but then he has to leave. It was so generic, like, nothing exciting really happened. The bad guy in both arcs, was kind of stupid to a comical fault. I don't know. They didn't really even explain his motivation very well. The animation was generally okay, but man, there was 1 or 2 episodes where the production was rushed or something, and we were like, whoa, what happened? And I'm not usually that big an animation snob, but when you can tell, it's like, hey, there's like 2 frames of animation here instead of the normal amount. And when even I can tell it's shitty animation every now and again, I'm like, ooh, what happened here? And that's not a reason not to watch an anime. It can still be good, but there were just a lot of problems with this season, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't entertaining to watch. It was just generic. But it wasn't like bad. I wouldn't say it's a D. For me, it's a C, low C, high D. So we're gonna put it in C for now because it wasn't a complete waste of time, but it sure wasn't something I really wished I'd watched. Next and not last, despite what it looks like on here, is Aharen-san wa Hakarenai, which they didn't even bother to really translate, but it essentially means Aharen-san, which is our little girl in the upper right, is oh gosh, what's the word? I gotta look it up, hold on. Indecipherable. So yeah, Aharen is indecipherable, which, you know what? They nailed it! She is... They are in high school, even though she's like a tiny little chibi girl. And when she talks, it's so quiet that you can't really hear her. So her new desk neighbor, as they start high school, which is the dude who's carrying her, Raido, I think, he tries to make friends with her because I guess he has some trouble making friends and stuff. So he's like, I'm gonna be really good to my desk mate. We're gonna get along well. And then thinks he's being snubbed because he'll say good morning and then won't hear anything back. But he finally finds out that she's actually whispering like good morning and talking to him the whole time. He just couldn't hear her. So like, you know, I don't know if this is too old, but there's a Seinfeld episode of like the close talker, where you have to get, like, they get really close to talk to you. But essentially that's what these two have to do. Like, she just gets real close to him so that he can hear her. And it looks ridiculous because she'll just be like right up on him or like on his lap or on his shoulder and stuff. And he doesn't seem to care. It's very like, yeah, cool, okay, we're talking now. And the whole show is kind of like that in a good way, in that these ridiculous things happen and nobody actually calls it out. Like, it's all played straight, which is kind of my type of humor. If anyone watched it, it reminds me a lot of Tanaka-san is Always Listless, in the same way where, like, just silly stuff is going on and people are acting silly or thinking silly things, but nobody calls them out and it just is the way it is. And it's hilarious. So, like, Raido has a penchant for overthinking things. So if she's got, like, let's say Aharen-san comes in and her hair is a little bit messy, he'll go crazy in his thought process, like, oh man, maybe she joined a biker gang and her hair is a mess because she had the wind through her hair, or maybe she's in trouble and the police are after her. Like, he'll go after all this, and it'll just be like a simple explanation where she's like, oh yeah, I lost my brush, or something like that. So it's goofy things like that on his end. On her end, she's really good at, like, games, pretty much good at everything. So, like, she looks unassuming, but then she'll bust out, like, Othello, or what do they call it, Reversey, I guess, and just be an amazing champion at it. Or she'll play their version of Pokemon Go and, like, whomp him even though she hasn't ever played it before. Goofy stuff like that. But he doesn't really, like, he doesn't get mad at it. He's just like, I'll beat her next time, but, like, doesn't. And so it's kind of a running joke on that. The other characters have minor roles, like the two on the left, like, they don't even come into play until, like, way later in the series, and they're just kind of, I don't even know if they ever actually get named. I think they do. But they're just, like, random classmates who, you know, kind of become friends and enjoy the shenanigans of the main characters. The girl, the ninja, I should say, in the upper left, totally is either in romantic love or, like, friendship love with Aharen, and is kind of a scaredy cat. So even though she's, like, huge, she's afraid of, like, confrontation and tries to just always hide away and watch over them. But they bring her into stuff, and she's kind of goofy too. And then there's, like, the teachers. You can kind of see them on the the right hand side. I swear sometimes I think I have, like, dyslexia, but there's one who's just, like, overwhelmed with the esteem that she thinks Raido and Aharen-san have for each other, and she just gets a nosebleed because they're so full of esteem for each other. They're helping each other so much. And then there's the other teacher who just is her friend. I don't know. It's, again, another rom-com in the season of rom-coms, and it does have a resolution. I won't say what it is, but that's always nice to see. And it was just a lot of fun. Again, this ticked my brand of humor where they just play goofy shit straight, and I liked it a lot. It's not an S tier for me because it wasn't, like, the best thing ever, but it's definitely an A tier. If that goes on sale, I would like to have it in my collection. And the final one, there were just too many. I couldn't put it up here. That I watched this season is Tiger and Bunny Season 2! I never thought this was actually gonna happen. Nobody did. Like, the last Tiger and Bunny season was, like, 10 years ago or something. It was ridiculous. And they're like, hey, there's gonna be a sequel. I'm like, there's gonna be a what now? So I rewatched, you know, the movie, the summary movie, the regular movie, and, like, I like Tiger and Bunny. It was a lot of fun. And kudos to the company because it feels like there was not a 10-year gap between these shows. Like, it feels like, boom, this just picked up the next season. The animation, the characters, it just kind of felt like coming home. And I'm like, yay, it's so nice to, like, see these guys again. The show itself, if you've never seen Tiger and Bunny, essentially it takes place in a world where there are heroes that are basically sponsored by companies. So you can't see it here because they aren't showing it, but in the opening song, like, all the hero outfits actually have, like, brand names and company names plastered over them because those are the sponsors, like in real life and in the show. But so they're sponsored, and then they have to get points. They're on, like, Hero TV, so they go after criminals, and, like, the first to the scene gets, you know, an extra 200 points or something, and then the one to capture it gets the most points, and assists get some points, and then they have, like, a end of the year, like, who's the best, highest rated hero. The Tiger and Bunny duo was a test kind of thing to have a duo buddy system in the first season, and it worked so well that in this second season, everybody's got a buddy. So all of our favorite heroes are back and paired up, and then there's also 3 new heroes that are joining the mix, 2 of which are paired with each other, and 1 is paired with, like, the last remainder from the last season. So that's fun because that introduces new heroes at least as well, gives them kind of a reason to be part of it. By the way, the best name of one of the heroes ever is He Is Thomas. Like, that's his hero name, is He Is Thomas. And I'm like, what? And he's great. He's excellent. But the show doesn't take itself too seriously. It's an action buddy comedy show, I guess, because they're, you know, Tiger and Bunny are still play basically like the old married couple where they bicker, but they're still really good and trust each other, friends. So like even when they're not talking to each other, they can still work together on a criminal scene and win the day. And then there's the new enemy this season are these two twins who work together and have been taking out heroes in other cities and stuff, and so they have to eventually confront them, and there's some more stuff going on because this is actually only season 2 part 1. So it ends an arc, but there is a cliffhanger on, oh, so this is the end of this, but there's actually more going on behind the scenes. And I am very much looking forward to season 2 part 2 because I freaking love Tiger and Bunny. I don't know, it feels good. Especially in a time where all these superhero movies and shows are kind of showing like the darker side of heroes and things are going bad and gross. Like, this is still kind of like a wholesome hero show, but doesn't take itself too seriously wholesome. Like, they're kind of goofy characters and they know it, but it feels good. It feels good and I loved it. And I will buy it and I will watch season 2 part 2. And I'll probably love that and buy it if they ever put it out. It's on Netflix, so I'm not sure how that's gonna work, but that is why Tiger and Bunny Season 2 gets my only S rating for the Spring 2022 anime season. So to recap and actually tell you what things these are on, because I forgot to mention that except for Tiger and Bunny. Tiger and Bunny 2 stays in S tier and it is Netflix. Spy Family was on Crunchyroll, because that's took over Funimation, so it's Crunchyroll. It stays A tier. Kaguya-sama stays A tier, also on Crunchyroll. Aharen-san is a high B, low A, I'll be honest, but I don't want to move it over, so it'll so we'll just do that. We'll just do this. It was fun. Again, it might be a recency bias, which is why I put it in A tier, but it did have a blast. That's on Crunchyroll. Shikimori is more than a cutie or whatever the heck it's called, not just a cutie. It's still a B. It was good. That's on Crunchyroll. Danseur was a B because it was nice to learn about ballet. That's on Crunchyroll. Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex is on Netflix, and for my personal taste, I'm gonna do it there. But honestly, it's probably more like a B to C for most people who don't love Ghost in the Shell as much as I do. Your boy Komei was on High Dive, which I finally got after Anime Central because there was a discount on it. It stays in the B tier. Dawn of the Witch was on Crunchyroll. It stays in the B tier. Heroines Run the Show was on Crunchyroll. It stays in the B tier. Skeleton Knight in Another World was also on Crunchyroll. It stays in the C tier. Shield Hero Season 2 was on Crunchyroll. Again, I don't know. I was just personally disappointed in it, which is why it's in the C tier. Your mileage may vary. It could be B to A tier for you. Don't necessarily take my opinion on it, but for me personally, C tier, it stays. The dropped ones, just to kind of let you know, they were all on Crunchyroll. And the only one of these were, again, Fanfare of Adolescence. I'm almost tempted to try and watch it to see if it's worth anything. And Tomodachi Game. I feel like if someone tells me, whoa, Tomodachi Game is actually really good, maybe I'll give it a go on sometime when I binge an anime, but the rest are meh. But yeah, that's my tier list for the anime season of Spring 2022. All in all, I finished 12 new shows this season. These aren't the only anime I watch. I actually watch some other stuff too, through an anime club I'm at, and just sometimes for other stuff on the side. I watched Kill la Kill during the spring season for no reason. I just hadn't watched it in a long time, and it was something I wanted to see. But I finished 12 shows, which is pretty good, to be fair. Not the strongest season, but not a season with a ton of shitty ones either. I'll take it, I guess. Again, a lot of rom-coms. I'm hoping this next season has less of that. From what I'm seeing so far, it already does have less of that, so we're good to go in summer 2022. But yeah, if there's any shows that I missed on here that you're like, why the hell didn't you watch this show? Let me know. Because like I said, I do watch other anime during seasons, so maybe I'll pop that into my backlist of things to watch, my backlog. Or if you completely disagree on one of my opinions, let me know. Because I have an open mind on things. Just if you explain something to me, I'll be like, okay, maybe, yeah, maybe it is pretty good in that regard. So let me know. It's cool. Otherwise, there you go. Hopefully, again, my main goal is for these tier lists to help someone who is looking for what to watch and doesn't, keep up on all the seasons, to get an idea of maybe something they want to watch if they don't watch as much anime as I do. So if this has helped you in any way, I'm glad. If this hasn't helped you in any way, thanks for watching anyway. And I will see you in the next quarter for summer 2022 anime. It's a veggie BLT pita! I totally suck at video games, but love to play them anyway.